So he just drops one card into Stark Tower. So that probably being like a Chavez. But we're going to be able to shift our Falcon over now that it merged with Hulkbuster to be able to take mid lane. So guys, you'll have to excuse the wardrobe change here in a minute. I recorded this video in 2 pieces, and I had all of the clips, and I was editing, and I just wanted to say thank you guys so much. On the last video upload, we were at like 480 subs, and I asked you guys for your support to bump us up over 500, and your support has been phenomenal. Just a couple hours after that video went live, we bumped all the way up to 515 subscribers. So we have met our first, like, what I feel like is a big goal for the channel. 500 subscribers, that's a lot of you guys. A lot of support, a lot of feedback has gotten us to this place. Like I look back at the first video and I kind of cringe a little bit. But thank you guys so much for all of your support, all of the feedback, and just enjoying the content. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it. Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Marvel Snap video. So we are coming fresh off the patch. We are experimenting with the different cards that have been buffed, nerfed, and just trying to make some cool things happen. One of the things that stood out the most to me with the patch was the buff to Kraven. So Kraven, I don't blame you if you don't remember what it did, if you have never played it, if you may have never even seen it. Kraven was a very underwhelming card, and it was a 2 cost, 2 power. When you move a card here, this gets +1 power. So only cards that you moved into the location would trigger that effect. Now it has some additional upside, and they changed it to when a card, so yours or the opponent's cards, move here, this gets +2 power. So you can use this in a couple of different ways. I thought about trying it in a movement deck similar to the Kingpin, where we have like Arrow when we unlock it, we have Polaris, we have Juggernaut, things that will move cards to that location to force them to buff up my Kraven. I don't know that I have all of the tools that I need to necessarily make that type of deck work, but what I do have is a pretty cool movement deck that I have lovingly named That's So Kraven, that has performed really, really well. So with the small buffs to Doctor Strange, to some of the move components, so with Kraven, and then having Human Torch already be a pretty big unit in and of itself, it feels a little bit better than it did before to focus more so on movement aspects, while still having some kind of utility and cards that will buff over time. And so I'm going to run through the cards really quickly. First up, we have Human Torch, which is our first move card. When this moves, double its power. So this card can get fairly large. The biggest one I've gotten is 32. But if we can do that and then have a Heimdall push it at the very end, I think we could get to 64 in like the best circumstances. But this is not like the primary target in this deck. It's not the only win condition. We have several cards that can get big enough to be win conditions. Our next move card is Kraven, which when a card moves here, this gets +2 power. So if you use this with like a Cloak, or with an Iron Fist, or even a Doctor Strange, a Heimdall, you can make Kraven pretty big. And even if you only move 2-3 cards throughout the game, you're gonna have a 2/6, 2/8 card, which is a really good value for a 2-cost card. So he feels like he fits in really, really well, whereas before he just felt unplayable. And the last movement specific card that we have is Vulture. When this card moves, +5 power, huge upside to any type of movement. You move him once and he's a pretty solid card. Alright, and so next up we have the move enablers. Iron Fist being a cheap on reveal, move the next card you drop, 1 location to the left. So this can be used and recycled via Falcon. We then have Cloak, which on reveal next turn both players can move cards to this location. So if you drop a Cloak into your Kraven lane, you're going to get an upside out of moving your cards there, and the opponent probably won't want to move theirs because it will buff up your Kraven further. And then we have Doctor Strange, who on reveal move your highest power cards to this location. So if there are more than one and it's tied, it will move them both. So if we have it where Vulture and Human Torch are both 8, you can move them both, and you can really start snowballing really quickly. And then Heimdall, on reveal, move your other cards 1 location to the left. In the last video, I opted to not use Heimdall But this one, I want to kind of lean into the move pieces a little bit further. So we have a few other move cards now with Kraven, a few other cards that benefit from that movement that I think it's worthwhile to slot it back into the deck. And then rounding out the rest of the deck, we have utility pieces. Utility as an Iceman, who on reveal give a random card in your opponent's hand +1. This is a cheap card that we can throw onto the board. We can pull back with Falcon and play it a couple of times to get some additional upside from both the Collector, Angela, and the fact that it slows their play down just a little bit. And so this time around, we did opt to go with Forge in our deck. So the idea being, if we are on turn 4 and maybe we just draw into Human Torch and we need like an initial boost, maybe we have a cloak already coming down on the lane that we're going to be able to move him next turn anyways. So maybe we need that initial boost from Forge to kind of start that snowball rolling. And then even if not, throwing +2 to another card is okay, even if it's not necessarily a move card that benefits from that initial boost. All right, so we are getting rid of the Collector. Before we had Moon Girl, but Moon Girl in this deck line just felt too expensive. It didn't feel like we were going to be able to use her very often. And so why not lean all the way into the move components and go with Hulkbuster. Hulkbuster being able to be added onto a Vulture, a Human Torch, and then if, let's say, it's late game and we just draw those pieces, we can start out with a 6-power Human Torch, drop Heimdall on turn 6, and then it's already a 12 power, even though we haven't had him the entire game. So I think there will be some use out of Hulkbuster. Unfortunately, Collector got a nerf when we lost the ability to really duplicate our cards consistently, with Moon Girl being 4 power. Okay, with that small tweak out of the way, we are ready to jump into a game and try out this deck. First up, we have Chimera. So we draw into a few of our move pieces, but nothing great just yet. Danger Room being the far left room is actually not terrible for us. We're able to drop a Heimdall, push everything over. We don't have the downside of potentially having it destroyed. And so it's a pretty decent location for us. So I'm going to start stacking cards on Angela in the far right lane. That way, whenever I move some cards around, I'll be able to shift that power level. And then if I need to drop some power into the far right lane, respectively, I can. And so we drew into Iron Fist, Forge. So do we ever do something kind of like, maybe we do. Maybe we do our Forge bonus, because then even if, actually no, I'm going to do it for Iron Fist. So then even if we pull Iron Fist back into our hand, he's going to retain that buff. And so he'll be a 6-power 1-cost card, so equivalent to a demon from the hood. And so very powerful if we are going to pull that card back. And so then Forge having the Wakanda Embassy buff in and of itself is decent. And then Angela is just going to start kind of buffing and going crazy. So we're going to get some utilization out of Iron Fist here. Maybe I just do something like that. That way we trigger the Iceman bonus, we pull him back into our hand. Doesn't feel the greatest, but it feels okay at the very least. We'll be able to start buffing up Angela even further. Ideally, she'll be able to win us either this right lane if we decide not to drop Heimdall, or the mid lane if we decide to push everything over. And so far, they haven't dropped a lot of resources, so I don't really know what they're running. And Angela, Colossus, Star-Lord, I honestly have no idea. And so, let's see. We can make our Vulture pretty large. We can drop an Iron Fist here. We can drop Vulture, which will move over to mid. Do we... I think maybe we do. Maybe we drop Iceman here. And so we can either just drop Vulture and then drop a Cloak somewhere so we can move them as we want to. But I think I like this play line better. We keep Cloak in our hand. Next turn we'll be able to drop Heimdall and push cards over. And so Vulture should be pretty large. Ideally, he would be able to win Danger Room. Angela is going to be pretty big in and of herself. So ideally, again, she would be able to win, help us win this mid location. So they drop an Okoye really late, so they're not getting a whole lot of upside out of it. But their Angela is pretty large, so I think we still go with this. If we go with this, we have 10, and then we're going to have this 20 power as well over here. And then we're going to have massive power in the danger room as well. I don't think there's a scenario where we lose this. If they can, okay, if they can swing it out, I'd be really, really impressed. But we should have snapped earlier to make sure that we were able to get the upside out of all of these buffed up cards. But so far, this deck feels really solid. I piloted it a few times before playing here, and it feels really good. So they snapped right away. So if we are able to... So this game is going to go into limbo. If we're able to draw into our move components pretty early, this can be a really large Human Torch game. Maybe we'll be able to match the 32 that we saw in the very first time we played this. So I kind of want to drop Human Torch into Muir Island to let him start buffing up, but at the same time I want to drop Kraven into a lane. That way next turn I could do like a Human Torch and a Cloak to be able to move Human Torch over into the Kraven lane and buff him up. I just don't know which one would be a little more worthwhile. And so I am going to go with Kraven in the far left lane. That way we can move stuff around, we can pull stuff back in our hand at the very last turn. If we drop a Heimdall, we can get a pretty big upside by pushing things over into Kraven's lane. And so I think we do drop Human Torch here, we drop Cloak, and then that's going to make this 6 whenever we move it next turn. We should be able to grab it and pull it in with Doctor Strange, which will make it 12. And then depending on what we grab, on turn that following turn, we may pick up a Falcon, or we may drop Falcon. It just kind of depends on what draw line we go into. And they have Mojo in the mid, so we're going to want to not have this one fully capped out, if at all possible. And so we move Human Torch over. We have 4 power. What do we do with our 4 power? With 4 power comes great responsibility. I think it'll probably be best to go ahead and just grab Human Torch, let him strengthen and buff up a little bit, and then we can play from there depending on what we grab and what we draw into. So I think that's the play. And actually, depending on if they move too many cards over, we may actually grab Kraven instead, and they're not pulling any cards over. Okay, so nothing to worry about. Had they dropped 2, we would have grabbed Kraven and not Human Torch. And so would that have been more beneficial for them? I don't know. Maybe. That way we couldn't buff up Human Torch as quickly. But we'll see. So we draw into Iron Fist. So how do we want to play this? We can't do all of the moves we want. So we kind of want to do Iron Fist into Vulture, into Falcon. But I don't know that that is feasible. So should we do something like Forge, Falcon, Iron Fist? That way, if we draw into our Heimdall next turn, he costs 5. We have the opportunity to play it. Whatever card we drop is going to move, so that being most likely a Human Torch is going to move. We could also have it trigger on Vulture, and then that way we can split that power across the board. I think that's the best play line we were able to find, but so they're going wide. They have a wide deck, and so they do have Mysterio. One of those turns into a 5 power, the others are 3. The Brood got buffed up a little bit by Okoye and Nakia, I assume, or maybe just Nakia. And we draw into Iceman, so not our best draw. So I think what we do, I think we drop I think we drop Vulture here. Vulture is going to push over into this lane and be 8 power, and it's going to buff up Kraven just ever so slightly. We drop Human Torch here, which is going to be 17, and so then we have to drop Iceman as well. If they have something like a Patriot, or if they have some way to buff these cards this turn, then we end up losing. And we may end up losing anyways if this is the real Mysterio. Oh boy. I've never ran up against the Mysterio, so I didn't. Oh boy. I think it is what it is. We also have a potential play line of dropping Human Torch here. And then Iceman here as well to kind of compete with Muir Island, or just, I guess, just one of the two. And so they drop Iron Man, which is good. We're not competing for Muir Island. So maybe they were anticipating a Heimdall push, and that's not what we're going with this turn. We push Vulture over, so we should be able to win Limbo. But now it comes down to where is the real Mysterio? Oh wait, that wasn't the final turn. We could have played things so much better. Well, I guess we just pass and let it play out. That's unfortunate. I forgot there was a turn 7, and if this is a Patriot, no, it's not. So the turn 7 didn't really do anything for them. It didn't do anything for us, but it really depends on where Mysterio lies. That could have been bad. We could have made it a lot more upside for us, and the real one is over in mid. Yes, you stacked too much power there, friend. Oh man, that could have swung either way. And I'm not sure why they put so many resources into Muir Island. Maybe they were really leaning into us doing a Heimdall shift, in which case they would want to win that mid location, and then if they had a decent amount of power in Titan, they could win that as well. But them having dropped Bishop and Mojo early, that kind of encouraged me to go away from Muir Island. We could have played that a little more optimally if we had remembered there was a turn 7, but we were able to pull it out anyways. We got a little bit lucky because it really did come down to if Mysterio was dropped here or not. If it was, we would have lost. But it was just one of those that we had to gamble, had to roll the dice. Oof, we draw a rock right off the bat. I guess we just start by playing Iceman wherever we really want to, knowing that in our back pocket we have the Falcon to pull him back into our hand, and it'll slow down B-Blader's play just ever so slightly, and it could hit a high priority target. It could hit a rock and not really affect the game at all, but we just don't know. And so they did drop an Okoye, which is, I mean, if you're going to run it, you want to have it in hand and drop it on turn 1. Not another rock. Okay. So we're just going to drop our rocks into Murder World so that they get destroyed. And just like that, we have 2 out of 5 rocks out of the way. As we wait on B-Blader to play, can we go for the 3-peat? Okay, thank God. So I think what we do is we drop Vulture, and then we'll be able to pull him in with Doctor Strange. We'll be able to drop Cloak to move him around. That may end up being like the hill that we die on, that we go down fighting. Like Vulture may be our only fighting chance in this scenario. And B-Blader didn't drop anything again. Interesting. So Okoye, and then they haven't dropped anything since. So I'm wondering what they could be running. Is it going to play anything? X-Mansion took forever to initiate. So X-Mansion comes in with Medusa, not great. And Iron, really? Why? I get a Medusa. I get a 2-cost Medusa. You get 5-cost Iron Man. It doesn't want me to win. Okay. So in hand, we do have Doctor Strange. I think we drop Doctor Strange, which will pull in our Vulture. Next turn, we drop Cloak in mid so that we can either just move Vulture over and then push him back with Heimdall if we draw into it, or we can just move him over and let him sit and simmer. It'll kind of create some option for us. But Cloak being dangerous or scary because they can shift Iron Man around. So maybe that's not what we end up going with, but we'll have to like tentatively see. We'll play around with it. And so Vulture is now 8, so he is a decent sized. Elektra's going to come in and kill our Iceman. Not the end of the world. They end up playing rocks. And I drew... Excuse me, what? I guarantee you they had as bad of luck, if not worse luck, with rocks than we did. I'm guessing maybe they had 2 other rocks in hand. But why wouldn't they have played them in Murder World to let them be destroyed? I think we got lucky because I do not think we had that win if he had anything decent, but I will take it. So first location, we have Muir Island, and we have Iron Fist in hand, but we also have Angela. So I am going to want to drop a lot of resources in this left location early, but I want to wait until turn 2 so that I can at least play Angela first. That way I can start buffing her up as I drop these other cards. So ideally we'll drop like an Iron Fist and a Cloak, or an Iron Fist and a few other cards to start buffing her up, and then we can either pull them off with Cloak, or we can do something else. So I think I'm going to... Is this weird? Is this a weird play? This might be a weird play. But I just don't have a good use of my mana otherwise. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I don't know that it's the right call, but I'm going to play Shocker, which we got from the hub. And then I'm also going to drop Iron Fist as my last card. That way, if I draw into Human Torch, I can play it right off the bat. I can also drop Vulture, who will then slide over. Next turn, I can drop Doctor Strange and pull Vulture out, and then also drop Cloak, so that I can then move him and then move him again. It gives me a lot of versatility here. And that's what I was looking for, was some way to... And so he drew my Heimdall, which doesn't do him a lot of good. Except for having the information that I have Heimdall. And so we now have a pretty large Vulture. I think we drop Doctor Strange. And then drop Cloak over here. So Doctor Strange would pull Vulture here. Cloak would allow me to move it if I want to, but if not, I have the option to drop Heimdall here to push him back this way. I think that may be my play here. That way it limits the knowledge that my opponent's going to be able to have. Like, it's going to be really hard to tell where I'm going or what I'm going to do or where I'm planning on pushing this card. And that's kind of half the battle with a movement deck. So yes, having the movement pieces is good, but being able to kind of outmaneuver your opponent is also very, very important. So they capped out this lane, but they also have Nightcrawler. And so they can always move Nightcrawler out. So do we play it like this? This would allow us to cap out the mid location. It would allow us to cap out the left-hand location, or not cap it out, but we'd get a very large Vulture there. If they have Shang-Chi, we're in trouble. But I think this is how we play it, because this will give us 8, 9, 10, 17. 17 in this lane, which is hard to compete with, and then a whole lot of, so 20 something extra in this lane. Is that how we play it? And then if he moves Nightcrawler out and then drops something like a 10 drop, do we still win? I don't know. But I think we... so he moved a lot of cards. Ooh, what is he? And so he capped out Monster Metropolis. Is he going to drop... No, he can't drop Heimdall. So we're moving everything out of Monster Metropolis anyways, so it doesn't necessarily matter that we don't win that location. So maybe he was trying to outplay my outplay. Maybe he was trying to play around the thinking that maybe I wouldn't drop Heimdall because he knows that I have Heimdall. I don't know. Oh no. So our Vulture doesn't get to move, but that's okay because we still win. We already won that lane. So the Space Throne came in and actually was a detriment to our opponent, but we were able to shift around and win nonetheless. And I think that's... so the pure power of move decks is good, but I think the uncertainty is where you get a lot of misplays, a lot of... You just kind of have to go with a gut feeling, if you're the opponent, of what your opponent is going to do. Guys, look at my rock collection. Isn't she a beauty? She's so beautiful. Oh, and then this one is quartz. I know what you're thinking. How did you get your hands on this one? Well, I drew it. We have our best friend Rocks. Oh no. Rock collection 2.0, guys. Get ready for it. We're gonna share just the mother load of rocks. I think we you're feeling my pain too, Lord. Lord Amina? Yeah. You're feeling my pain too. So we're gonna drop Iceman. Hope that we don't draw into an entire rock collection. I don't even know. I don't even know. No, that seems too rushed. I'm just gonna drop my rocks. I'm just gonna drop some rocks in Stark Tower. Lets him know, hey, I got my rocks. Rocks just happened. Rocks definitely just happened. Okay, so what we do is we drop Angela, we drop Falcon. Big brain plays here, guys. No. Here. We drop Angela, we drop Falcon. That's going to pull our rocks back into our hand. We're going to be able to replay our rocks again to get the upside from Stark Tower. Feel like the best play line? No. But what else are you going to do when you draw into multiple rocks? And their Angela pulls in Shang-Chi, which is not what you want. Or their Jubilee pulls in Shang-Chi, which is not what you want. So I am torn. We're not going to be able to merge our Human Torch and get Cloak out onto the board. So I'm wondering if we don't just... do something like this to free up some bandwidth here. This becomes 4, so then if we do decide to move it, we'll be able to duplicate it or double its power into 8. I don't think it's a great play line either way, but I think it's the play line that we have. Look at this beautiful rock collection for all of us. Man, these rocks, just so entertaining. I love Subterranea. Okay. So our Angela is getting pretty big. Fortunately, they have some pretty low power cards. If they drop an Iron Man here, that becomes pretty unfortunate. But do we do something like this and this? as well as this, and this. The thought process is we double up our Human Torch here to make him as large as we possibly can, and then we bring over some supporting power as well. We drop a Hulkbuster right after our Iron Fist, so he's going to merge with one of these cards and then push over to the left into this Crimson Cosmos, where with us having a really low power, low cost deck, getting something in a Crimson Cosmos, especially if it ends up being a 9 or 17 or whatever Angela ends up becoming, seems like it'd be pretty impactful. So we're going to do that. And if we win a move game without really any like move buffed cards, it's going to be beautiful. So he just drops one card into Stark Tower. So that probably being like a Chavez, but we're going to be able to shift our Falcon over now that it merged with Hulkbuster to be able to take mid lane. And we don't have to compete for Stark Tower anymore. And it is a Chavez, so I think we had it either way. Sometimes you're going to get games and you're going to just get the best top deck that you can. In this case, we have played about 10 games, maybe a little bit more, and very rarely have we drawn into like a really good play line of our move components. So we've had to really call a lot of audibles and play inefficiently because of the cards that we have. But with this deck, and I think that's more of a testament to this deck and how many tools it has, we're still able to pull out probably 70% of the games, if not a little bit more. We've dropped maybe 2. And so Angela being a really big resource, Falcon being pretty decent, Hulkbuster actually came in really clutch there and won the game for us. And then our Human Torch, Cloak, our other move components. Kraven can be really big if you draw into if you draw into a good play line. But unfortunately we didn't. But I think I am going to stop the video here. We have so many games and so many wins that I think at this point we're beating a dead horse and we're trying for like a perfect game, because I would like something like exciting for a finisher, but I don't think with this deck we're going to get that today. Maybe when we rehash it later on, we'll be able to come up with something where our card is just huge and it just an amazing, like, and it's just an exciting and amazing ender. But for this one, I think consistency is the key. We have performed fairly well with this deck. Is it as strong as some of your other deck archetypes? Maybe not. But is it a lot more viable, or is it at least playable in comparison to what move decks were before? Yeah, I think Kraven is actually really, really strong if you can draw into him early and you get those other move pieces. And once I pull Arrow, I'm really excited to try Kraven in a Kingpin, Arrow, Polaris, Magneto deck where we're shifting cards around with like Juggernaut. We may throw a Cloak in there just to add some chaos, but I think that will be really fun. I think it'll perform really, really well. So I'm excited to whenever we do finally pull Arrow. That could be months from now. It could be tomorrow. We don't know. We just have to kind of play it by ear. But I am going to end the video here. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, enjoying the video, giving the feedback that you guys give. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.